What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the Lionsteel ROK. This is a really interesting knife. As usual, I've got a lot to say about it. This knife was provided for review and donated to my channel by Harry Gage, or Shaker MT, which is a name most of you are going to be familiar with if you watch my channel a lot. If you see him down in the comments section, give him a thumbs up. That was super generous given the condition of this knife and how much it costs. Absolutely. So thank you very much. If you are new to my channel, I like to do knife reviews, knife overviews, such as the one you're seeing here. I like to do unboxings. I like to do discussion topics, and I've got a Knife Guy series on the weekend. If that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and subscribe and make sure your notifications are set to all, because there's definitely more coming. Also, I have an Instagram. I don't know why I pointed here. There's nothing that's going to show up here. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at metal_complex. Anyways, let's go ahead and measure this knife. So the overall length of the ROK, which for the life of me, by the way, I cannot find anything online that tells me what ROK stands for. I'm really sorry about that. If somebody wants to enlighten me and everybody else in the comments section, or everybody else watching this video, let me know down in the comments and I will pin it. Anyways, overall length of the ROK coming in at surprisingly under 8 inches. This feels like an 8-inch knife, but it's actually only about 7 3/4. That's pretty cool. I'll go over why here in a sec. From tip to scale, you're looking at about a 3.3-inch blade and just shy of 3 1/4 inches on the cutting edge. Really nice size, honestly. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall, so you can see there it's quite a bit shorter than the Rat 1. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Ritter Hogue, or the Benchmade Reptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. In hand, the ROK feels a lot very similar to the Ritter Hogue, just in terms of its its height here and the slight contouring on the scales and the height of the blade. But to my surprise, it's actually a little bit shorter. It's probably the heft of it, which we'll cover. How about up against the Para 3, Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. And let's do one more size comparison, just because it's a Lionsteel. This is my Lionsteel TRE. I'm sure a lot of people will find this to be helpful. The TRE titanium is coming in at, I want to say, like 6 1/2 inches overall. Let me look in my light. It's actually like 6.75. It's just shy of 7 inches. So if you're considering one or the other of these knives, and you wanted to kind of know, because this is the aluminum variant, but it also does come in titanium like the TRE. There's the difference in profile and overall length. We'll talk more about that. There are some other similarities there. Let me go ahead and give you guys an example of the action. This knife is smooth. It's not quite fall shut. It needs a little bit of encouragement to get down in there, but just fine. No issues there. It's got a plenty strong detent. No issues there. The flipper tab is shaped, well. It does have a little bit of a double clutch situation here, meaning that it sometimes does not want to pass all the way over the detent ball by the time the flipper tab meets your thumb. So when you go to shake it, it might get stuck behind the detent ball, and you're going to be doing this forever. That's not a deal breaker. That's something that happens with the ZT-0562, and it's still a very loved knife. Don't let that dissuade you from making a purchase on this knife. There's a lot of other good features on it. But in any case, the flipping action is plenty good. Let me go ahead and give you guys a measurement behind, or on the spine of blade thickness. This is much thicker than I thought it was. It's also crowned, a lot like Chris Reeve knives. That's a nice touch. They do that on the TRE as well. So you can see there it's got that same type of crowning, just a different blade grind. Blade thickness on this guy coming in at, holy moly, is it really 1/5 of an inch? Is it really that thick? Or nearly a thick, 180 thousandths? Let me get my XM18 fatty. We'll take a look. Boy, it is. That's a thick blade. I'm not sure why they chose to make that blade so thick. I don't know that they really needed to. I thought that it was 165 thousandths, and even there I thought that's really thick on this knife. But Yeah. Wow, that is really, really thick. Okay, that's fine. Sometimes that's just the case. Sorry, I should have checked on that before I did the video, but yeah. Anyways, take a look at this beautiful satin finish blade. Lionsteel does a good job with their satin finishes. That is really, really nice. I am very pleased with the grind lines on this. It's really, it gives it that sheen. You know, M390, which is what this is, when it has this satin finish, it has this odd, almost rainbowy hue, kind of like when you see mist on a hot sunny day, and you see that it kind of, you can kind of see that in the steel on the grind lines. I mean, Lionsteel does a great tumbled finish, but this just looks like precision. I'm really, really happy with that. I have no idea how this M390 is heat treated. I've tried to stay completely out of that drama. Whatever. The steel's M390. I'm going to assume that it's heat treated properly, but I don't know. We have a very attractive drop point blade here with an interesting swedge. You can see the lines here are a little bit more angular, giving it kind of a futuristic modern look, which is something that Lionsteel is pretty good at. All the lines, despite the grind or the lines on the grinds being kind of angular, everything is nice and smooth and nicely rounded off. It's really, really nice. Because of the thickness of the blade and the grind of the blade, you can see that the tip is very robust. I could not imagine you're going to have an issue with durability on a blade that's ground like this. Now, despite it being so thick, it does have quite a ways to drop to the edge, and while it's not unbelievably thin behind the edge, it's not like a laser beam, it is thinner behind the edge than I would have expected, and it does slice well. So you're going to have issues when you're cutting into material, you know, as the material goes up and follows through to the cut and comes out to the, I mean, the thickness of the blade will slow it down, but in terms of the actual cutting edge, plenty slicey to do EDC tasks and hard use tasks alike in terms of just heavy pressure cuts and outdoor work. No issues there. It's a beautiful blade. I love that they're leaving most of the billboarding off of it. Most of the time I'm always like, move that back and put it over here, but it's not bad up here. I don't have a problem with that. Moletta, I guess, is the nickname of the gentleman who designs and makes these. That's as much as I know about that. It says Lionsteel Italy. This knife is made in Italy. Really, really nice. Moving down to the scales, here's something we haven't talked about yet, is that this is an integral, meaning it's all one piece of the handle. It's not two pieces. Now, those are always more expensive because essentially the manufacturer has one shot to get the handle exactly right. They're milling it from a solid block and they've got one shot to get it exactly right, or they have to chuck the whole scale, which is expensive. And what I mean by getting it exactly right is you have to imagine the holes, all the lines have to be milled perfectly, the holes to accept all the different types of hardware, which there's a lot on this knife, to accept the chip for the steel lock bar insert, to make sure the blade fits in there correctly and all the tolerances are correct. That's quite a bit of work to make sure that that happens. So it's expensive. Despite this being aluminum, it's expensive to make that work. Is it completely necessary? Does it give you some sort of utilitarian benefit? No. Does it cost more money and justify why this is higher than your standard aluminum ball bearing pivot frame lock or liner lock, or I mean on aluminum? Obviously they use some piece of titanium or steel on the lock, which is the case here as well. With M390, does it justify it being a higher price? Yes, it does. If you're somebody who only cares about the utilitarian benefits of a folding knife, you're not going to see that price there. But if you're somebody who can understand, you know, hey, like I kind of appreciate this level of intricacy in machine work and I'm willing to pay for it, then yeah, you probably can see that. That's just the case. Speaking of intricacy in the machine work, you can see there's a lot of intricate details on the handle here. I really like these lines. I like the little diamond pattern that kind of shakes things up a little bit. There's nice chamfering on this all the way around. It feels really, really nice. This is aluminum, which is how they're achieving that color. Red, is red a color that you can actually achieve on the anodizing scale? I think it technically is, but it's such a fine margin that it's almost impossible to achieve. So oftentimes when you see red titanium scales, it's Cerakote, but this is actually hard coat anodized red aluminum. So that's really, really nice. This knife does come in a titanium variant, tumbled titanium. I would imagine, like other past titanium models, it'll come in this color. It'll have options for blue anodizing and bronze and blah blah blah. In this version, I know you can at least get black and red. I would imagine Maybe they have green and blue too. I don't know that 100%, but there's usually a lot of different variants. So if this color doesn't do it for you, just check on your favorite retailer that carries Lionsteel, and I imagine you'll find a color that is at least partially to your liking. So what is this down here? You might be wondering. When I got this knife, I looked at that and I was like, what on earth? This is the pocket clip. How do you get it out of there, right? So this button, you push it, and it raises that pocket clip up enough to get it over your pants. That's interesting. It does create a situation where there is zero hotspot. The pocket clip does not create a hotspot at all, and I really appreciate that. Now, getting this into my pocket, it almost requires me to have two hands on it, because I can't move these fingers out of the way enough to get my thumb right there, which is how I would do it with one hand. I mean, I can do it, but it takes such specific repositioning of my hand. I'm actually worried about dropping the knife, right? So it puts me in a situation where when I put it in my pocket, I prefer to use two hands, right? Because I feel like I need to lift my pocket. I want to hold on to it right here, then push the button once part of it is safely in my pocket, and then go ahead and slip that pocket clip over my pants. Because otherwise, you honestly do run the risk of dropping it. And if you're going to use this knife outside, you're going to be working with it, you're going to have this hand busy, right? The benefit to a good pocket clip is being able to slip it in and out of your pocket with one hand without the risk of dropping it. You do definitely run the risk of dropping this knife by pushing that button and holding it like this. I mean, as with practice is going to come, more familiarity with the knife, but it is a little bit more finicky getting it in and out of your pocket than a normal knife. But for what they did here, honestly, for creating something that I've never seen before, this retractable pocket clip, and the benefit of not having a hot spot on it, it's pretty cool, honestly. I mean, I'll take that trade-off of making it a little bit, I have to take an extra second and one extra brain cell to get it into my pocket. Okay, I'm fine with that. I think that's pretty cool. Not everybody's going to like that, but I think it's neat, Obviously, if the pocket clip breaks, you're kind of in a predicament there, because I would imagine this isn't cheap as far as knife parts go, but there you go. It's fixed in there nicely. It does have good retention. It's going to carry the knife about right here, so that's fine. It's got a Torx head, what looks like what could have been the pivot attaching it there. Now, it's only going to be right side tip up only unless they make a left-hand version of this knife, which I'm not aware of. So there's only one position for the clip. Another interesting feature of this knife is that you have this thing that you see on a lot of Lionsteels. It's a Lockbar Stabilizer, but it's also something that stops the lockbar from disengaging entirely. You can rotate that. If you rotate it up, it'll disengage. You rotate it down, and it will lock this into place and make it impossible to disengage, unless you're putting enough force on the knife to break that thing, which in my opinion is an insane amount of force that would only be necessary when you're using a fixed blade in a way that's probably too crazy for even a fixed blade. Like at that point, if you're putting that much force on it to break that, the tool you're looking for is a hammer or a pry bar. So I'm not going to question the integrity of that disc. I think what it's doing a good job of, and I don't mind it. Unlike that Hogue that I reviewed once where the interaction with my fingers over here would sometimes cause this to accidentally engage, and then I'd be like, why can't I unlock it? I have not found that to be the case with this knife. There's enough friction there keeping it in this position that while I'm using it, I think it would take quite a bit of force to accidentally push that over and do that, so I don't think there's an issue with that one. You can see here that we do have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop alongside this guy. So there's two forms of over travel stop, much like the new generation Hinder XM18s or the new, the ZT0562. You have two of them. So really, as far as a frame lock goes that's in aluminum, that's probably the most durable aluminum frame lock I've ever seen. And like I said, it's not aluminum contacting the tang, it's steel. Plenty strong. I have no issue with the structural integrity of aluminum. That's completely fine. You know what we didn't do? We didn't weigh this. Let's weigh it because it'll bring me into my next point. This is an integral. It's one solid piece of aluminum, and you can see in there there's no milling. It's all solid aluminum, fairly thick aluminum. Aluminum itself is pretty lightweight, and so the fact that you have an integral aluminum You know, if this were made out of titanium or steel, it would be quite a bit heavier, at least 5 1/4 ounces with titanium, I would imagine, but it comes to an okay 4.52 ounces. I have zero problem with this, but I know some people, given the total length of it, it being under 8 inches, 7 3/4 inches overall, are going to say, that's kind of heavy. The profile, the carry profile of this knife is very good. It does not take up a lot of room in your pocket, even with that pretty substantially sized pocket clip. It's really pretty easy to carry. I have no problem with this. I regularly carry knives that are bigger and heavier, so no issue there. We have a regular Torx head pivot. I didn't cover that. Interesting sort of ninja star looking pivot. It's fine. It looks good. I don't have an issue with it. Everything's fine. This looks out of place to me. It's an extra piece of what looks like steel that just says ROK. Okay, I'd honestly prefer that wasn't there and it just said ROK on the blade, or it didn't say that at all. It's kind of like when you put the name of the knife on the knife, it's kind of redundant, because I know what it was because I bought it because it was on the listing and it's also on the box. I don't need to be reminded of what it is while I'm carrying it. That's in a very specific circumstances where somebody else is physically able to look at just the knife and you're carrying it and they're like, what is that? And you can't tell them for some reason or can't write it. Then they would know because it says right there. That's my only aesthetic qualm with this. It's not in the way. It's not causing, there's no disadvantage to it being there functionally. It's just, why? Why is it there? I don't know. So whatever. This also has a detachable flipper tab, much like the TRE. TRE stands for 3 rapid exchange, which I get that. It's got technically three different setups. You can rapidly exchange the deployment mechanism being either this thumb thing, or you can attach the flipper tab, which I don't on this knife because the detent's not good enough to support it. Or you can take both of them off for places that have laws against knives that deploy with one hand. So in that situation, you could take this off. You could just open it like this, and then if the blade length were okay in that area, then it would be legal. It's interesting to me that they didn't offer the option for the thumb tab up top, but it doesn't really need it. It's fine. In terms of the centering, this one's slightly off, and I can actually, let me pull my tools out here and demonstrate here real quick. I can actually tighten it over and get it perfectly centered. Oh, I should have had this ready to go before the video started. I had everything still in the right place here, but anyways, I can get it to come completely over and center up. But what happens, as you guys can imagine, get that in there carefully, is that as it becomes more centered, you can see here, now we're centered. Now we're a little bit tight. We're pretty tight. I can still get it to flip, but this is taking some serious shakes. So it's fine. It's one of those where you can adjust it just a hair. Like if we adjusted it back just a little bit, right? We're still pretty centered. It's not rubbing, and the action's much better. Like most knives, I would imagine that this will smooth up over time, and then once that detent ball has worn a good enough track into the blade and it's nice and smooth, and you can tighten it up and get it centered, a little bit of blue Loctite will hold it in place just fine. I don't really have an issue with that. It's annoying. It's not a deal breaker. The blade doesn't rub. So, moving on to the last part here, the price. This is an integral knife. It's made in Italy. It's manufactured with extreme precision, and it's M390. It has a lot of intricate moving parts, which, yeah, you know, the more parts there are, the technically you could make an argument for less durability or, you know, the potential for something to fail. But, I mean, this is impressive, and it comes in at $235 or something like that. Honestly, I think that's a pretty good price. The titanium variant comes in at $350. That's understandable to me. Lionsteel is known for making some of the least expensive integrals on the market. This is pretty good. Honestly, guys, yeah, I can recommend this knife. I think this is great. Harry, thanks so much for donating it. I think this is excellent. I think that this will bring people a lot of joy to own. In fact, it's actually going to be my next giveaway knife. The moment that I hit 70 patrons, I'm going to be giving this away along with its box and everything it came with. So if that sounds good, you know, then if you'd like to support me on Patreon, you can. If you'd like to just support me by watching, you can do that as well. Either way. But that's pretty much all I can say about this knife, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If If you'd like to take a look at my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.